I can pick 5 drivers who can maybe drive the car all the same speed, but one of those 5 is going to win more races than the other 4, and that is where strategy comes in.
I think a lot of drivers forget before they start the race to have a realistic goal for the day, and especially the younger drivers. I think you have to think about where do you want to finish. Obviously everybody wants to win, but you have to determine what defines progress.
Learning how to manage your race and manage your weekend is one of the most important things, and frankly it's the thing that differentiates the good drivers from the great ones. The good drivers can drive the car fast, they can put it on pole, they can win from the front. The great drivers will win races that they have no business winning.
The key is to be able to work through the race, so you almost take the weekend backwards. So from the very first practice session, you're working on the race. Probably the best drivers that we've ever had that have driven race cars want us to continue to fill the car with fuel and leave the oldest tires on the car for as long as we can, so they can make the car as good as possible for the race itself.
To go in with no plan at all just doesn't seem like a great idea, right? You need to have a plan. How do you visualize your race going? What are your goals? How do you see yourself getting there? But then also be willing and able to adjust on the fly, because things change, weather changes, conditions change, and you have to be able to adapt to those things quickly. So you start with a plan, but you may have to be willing to modify or change your plan as the race goes on.
You have to understand what the racetrack is going to give you on race day, and when you practice, you don't always practice for the fastest time around the racetrack. You practice for how you're going to race against competitors. So you find the best locations on the racetrack where you might gain the greatest advantage in a braking zone, or how you can creatively out-accelerate somebody off a corner.
I think you always have to know your competitors. As you get more experience and you race against the drivers more and more often, you'll start to understand what their trends are. You'll start to understand which ones are aggressive. You'll start to understand which ones are conservative, but you'll more importantly understand which ones you can trust.
The biggest thing in the junior formula racing is qualifying is paramount. So if you know that, you want to really concentrate on the things that make a difference for qualifying in practice. Making sure your car is good on new tires, is good on low fuel, is good for that short 2 or 3 laps where you need to put a time in. So that really sets up the whole rest of your race. If you're starting 10th or 12th all the time and then you're the fastest car in the race, it's still going to get really hard to get to the front.
You have to be very honest with yourself about where your weaknesses are, because those weaknesses are the things that are going to keep you from going forward. And if you're not honest with yourself, if you tell yourself that I'm better than everybody in every aspect, you're probably not really helping your career. You have to be able to say, and if you don't know, you need to ask. Ask somebody that you trust, and ask somebody that is very honest with you about, here's where you need to improve to get to the next level.
I'll give you an example of a driver who did pretty historic things for us, a guy named Dario Franchitti, and he showed up from the first day of work and he had a file folder for every racetrack where he'd ever driven. I think he had a name for every bump. He had a way around every corner conventionally and then non-conventionally. And his notes weren't notes from other race teams where he raced. He didn't bring us spring rates and setups and all the things that people might expect. What he brought was himself with the way that he creatively created a lap around a racetrack. And I think it takes that kind of a copious direction from a race driver to where, as you go back to a racetrack and over again, from the very first moment you're there, you try to study the racetrack, you try to learn what the racetrack is going to give you. You study competitors, you study how they get around a racetrack. And if you have teammates, you learn from them.
The whole game of racing is risk and reward. That's what you're balancing throughout every practice session, every qualifying session in the race. It's all risk and reward. How much risk do I want to take? How far can I go? Is this a matter of a championship? Is it a matter of one race? Is it a matter of cost?
It's hard to be out there driving at the limit, lap after lap, and still have enough mental capacity and reserve to process additional information. You have to be able to keep your pace, manage your race, process information. You have to be able to participate in conversations with the team while you're racing about what's going to happen next lap, as well as what's going to happen next pit stop and 3 pit stops from now. And that's a rare thing to be able to do, and it's one of the things that really separates drivers. When you're young, you think it's all about going fast, and that's the most important piece, but it only becomes one of the elements that leads to winning. Looking at the time available and where we were on the track, we had a really fast car. We just set fastest lap of the race, but we didn't feel like we were going to have enough time to get all the way to the front by doing the same thing all the leaders were doing. Plan A didn't work, okay, we're going to go to Plan B.
Fuel target 4.71. If you make fuel 4.71, we make the finish. We're staying out. We made our bed, now we got to line it.
There's no way I can make 4.71.
I know. Just do the best you can. I'm giving you the number. You just do what you can do. We're going to stay out. This may be the only shot we get to gamble. We're going to take it. We're going to roll our dice right now. This is our shot. We got a few laps of fuel on them, and we're going to try and get you in the front, get you in some clean air, and then we'll go from there. Save fuel. Clutch and coast.
He's off at turn 2. He's half a lap to go.
Full throttle. We're dropping out. Fuel pressure starting to drop. Okay, push. Fine.
Alexander Rossi into turn number 4 on fumes. Alexander Rossi for the final time exits turn number 4.
He kept telling me, if you hit the number we need to hit, you'll win the race. So don't think about anything else and just focus on that. So that's exactly what I did.
That didn't mean that any driver could have accomplished what Alexander did in the car. It was a very difficult thing that we asked him to do, to keep position, to keep going quickly, but to save a lot of fuel while you're doing it. And that's again where that sort of high functioning mentality becomes important.